Well, hello my friends, it's 4Planes again. And this is the beginning of Let's Science Starmade, I guess. Because right now I'm busy gathering a bunch of resources for bits and bulbs, because we're doing a Let's Science Starmade. I figured we're not just going to take a look at, well, not the factory stuff, but I'm currently busy on my own for gathering resources for my ships, because I want to stop spawning in all this stuff. So I'm eating a station. Well, when I'm finished with that and I'm getting back to you, we're gonna be able to start Let's Science Starmade. Well, we're now en route to our home base, and I'm pretty sure that I've taken the right waypoint now, this time. Let's go and break. Yeah. Down there you see a little bit of R&D testing equipment, and the ship, and the planets inside, and the frame rate is dropped down to unbearability. Yeah, I apologize. Oh, half guard. So now it's time to fit some antimatter cannons to this thing. Well, and then it's time to start writing all of it down and making data sheets. And of course you're going to get these data sheets, and I'll talk about what I learned doing these data sheets. And if we stumble across interesting things, and I'll keep you updated if I do. So what will we write on these data sheets? Let's plant down an antimatter cannon. 5 antimatter cannon block. Nope. Not these. Select that. My graphics right now. Yeah. I'll not restart the game. I don't wanna. Okay. Antimatter cannons. Boom. 5 antimatter cannons. Open our weapons computer. Take that on 1. We'll see a bunch of stats. Okay. The most notably interesting stat we cannot take a look at right now, cause we don't have power. But that's something I found out in the R&D of... well, you can see it because Game Freak's out of making the APCR. Is that the power use of an antimatter cannon array per shot is 10 times the blocks it has. So this array consists of 5 blocks, would use 50. So we have the amount of blocks I call X. The power use. X5 power use is 50. And after the power use, we open the weapons computer. Damage. The normal 25% stuff. Power use or damage is 56.6 damage. And reload. Reload is 379. And rest of that thing Excel will do. For example, calculations like the DPS and stuff. And other coefficients and things we endeavor to find out. Range is something... Everything that has a couple of antimatter cannon blocks has an acceptable range, something like 20 or 30. So we now have our sheet out. You maybe hear my playing around with the sheet in the background. And what now has to follow is go up a notch, fit the antimatter cannons, fire them. Oh, I forgot to note that reload in milliseconds. Not M8. Milliseconds in corner brackets, if that's the right term, is 564 milliseconds. 564 milliseconds. 64.9. 564. 565 is good enough, I guess. Okay. Just for the hex, I want to see what happens if we drop down to 1. Dang, the reload is awful. Range and speed is as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go up a notch and have 10. And we open the weapons computer. Damage is square root 80. Damage is 80. Power use is 100. And the reload is 487. Yeah, 487. And so on. And so forth. Boring work. Let's drop out of it. Can I see my other 4 planes eraser? Yes, I can. So now it's just a matter of getting power stored inside that thing. Because we want to do some R&D, we also need power. Okay, now that the game stopped lagging after reloading, let's go ahead and get this puppy loaded with energy. It should take us a little bit of time. And this is what power supply beams are useful for. Why I haven't fit any power to this particular ship is because it would mess up me being able to see the calculations and all. Enter ship core. T, set up the weapons computer. Well, we are not quite full on power, but it's enough. How much do we have? Please stop freaking out so much, my game. Okay, we have 337. No. 3.3 million. Okay. 3,331,420. 437.2. For 387.2. We have 50 there. 5 units. 337.2. 287.2. Yeah. So it consistently takes out 50 per. Oops. That was not what I intended to do. Now we have 10. We have 237. The last 3 digits I'm reading. Oh. Very sharp person at work. Forgets to set up everything correctly. Okay. Now it should go better. 187.2. 087.2. Yeah. Consistently takes out 1000. So I think it's been proven that it takes 10 times the blocks in power. let's go up to 15. It should take at 150, so after shooting we should be at 837. Yep. That's good enough. So, you get the gist. You basically read 98 damage. 98 damage. Reload is 430.4. 0. And the power use is 150 for 15 blocks. And you continue. And this is a tedium, and I'm not going to keep you with me. Forget that. If you wish so, well, if you wish so, you can repeat that fact and get the distance out. Distance is something I'm not too worried about, because range of 450, you can easily fit more than 15 antimatter cannon blocks somewhere. That's not a problem. So that's not something I worry about. Well, that's it for me. I'm out. I'll see you back when we have the finished Excel sheet, and we can talk about that. Well, people, we are now back, and you can say I've finished R&D, the R part. So research is done. Development should follow, in case my desktop light is going to work. Ah, it does. Okay. You see, I've plugged in a few numbers already. The blocks in the Antimatter Cannon, how many blocks it has, how much power it consumes. And now it's time to plug in the numbers. Well, I've finished plugging in all the numbers. As you can see, lots and lots of numbers. Well, let's first start plain and simple. Block row number A. I don't know if it's the right English term. Well, it's the amount of blocks in the array. One single array. So one single array consists of 5 blocks. B is the power usage of this array per shot. This is important. Per shot. So an array of 5 blocks uses 50 power per shot and deals 56 damage per shot. It reloads. It cycles once, so shot, reload, and then the next shot and reload cycle happens once every 565 milliseconds, which is equal to 0.56 seconds. And the DPS is 100.17. It uses 88.5 power per second, and the damage damage per used energy unit. This is what the term here is. It deals 1.132 damage per used energy unit. So, as we may later see, quite effective, or if you look at the numbers down here, quite effective. But what is not listed here are all these soft stats like bullet speed and range, which for a 5 block array is not very good, to say the least. But that does not really matter right now. DPS per block is interesting because it's higher for a low amount of blocks. Again, I think because of the soft stats and the bits and bobs there. EPS per block is really low, so it loses a low amount of energy to inflict per block used in the array, so it really is quite efficient with low amount of blocks in terms of damage. yeah, that's all I got out of it. From A to D is data out of the game. E, F, G, H, and I are formulas in deranged and deranged data. Well, data I got from figuring and analyzing all the stuffs and things I typed in here. And I went ahead and plugged and made diagrams. And we're going to look at these diagrams one by one. Well, I'm sorry that you don't really see the game in this part of Let's Science Starmade, but an important part of science is this. So, this, what is filling the screen right now, are the damage and reload stats. And this means the purple line is the reload in milliseconds, and as you can see it goes down. From the shape it has, it suggests it's a hyperbolic term underlying this. Or it's something, some unknown number divided by a logarithm. I can't decide. One of it is. This here quite much looks like a square root function. So something like some coefficient times the square root of, I don't know, some coefficient times x. The number of blocks in each array is x. We'll have to figure that out. Next is the DPS and EPS overall. DPS, EPS overall, nothing too important. Well, once I figured out the function for the reload and the function for the damage per shot, the function for the DPS isn't quite so hard. DPS is the blue one, oopsie. The function for the EPS, well, I'll have to figure out the function for the reload, and we'll have it in a function too. DPS and EPS per block, which is, in my thinking, the more interesting one, because, well, game doesn't show the first here, but simply because the DPS per block stays roughly the same after it's fairly stable, so nothing too fancy, but the DPS per block goes up dramatically the more blocks you fit. So in terms of how much blocks, how much power I need to do the one thing, bits and bobs, bleh. For 65, I think that's this line here, I need about 3 times as much power. 3 times, 3 energy units per 1 damage. So the more blocks you fit, the higher damage per energy is consumed, which is this graph, damage to energy efficiency. And this shows the points of damage inflicted for 1 used energy unit. So the variable, or the output, says how much damage you get for 1 point of energy you use, which is quite good. For example, if you have a reactor design that gives you 1,000,000 energy, you want to have 250 block arrays, you can just go ahead and, if you have the formula, I'll provide this Excel sheet, get it out, get it into your calculator, and say the coefficient is 0.18. So I have 1,000,000 power, and this is times 0.016. So I can support 160,000 DPS with a 1,000,000 power reactor. This is why I chose this way around. I'll provide this data sheet here with all the interesting things. The damage per energy is here, where you can read all the coefficients for your variable thingies. And the damage term, I think I have figured out. So we make a guess, which is I'll have 32. I'll multiply that by, I'll have to make the argument of 5 divided by 8, and we'll have to multiply that by the number of blocks used. So this is then A2. You can see my program marks it here, and we'll now have to close the bracket argument, which I think we did. Yes, we have. And I think we have a hit. It says 56.56. So now all that's left is to drag it down and take a look. And we beautifully hit, and I'm quite happy. So it says, the game says for 270 blocks I have an alpha damage of 415.7 per shot, and the formula gives me 415.69 and change. So I think we have a hit. Unfortunately, the term for the reload, I'm more or less in the blue. Well, quite as good as I'd like it to be. It's off by about 10%. But we're getting there. All that's left now is to take a piece of paper and finish what we kind of learned with trial and error, and get it solved on a piece of paper, or rather on a sheet of paper. And if we've solved our reload question, then we've solved everything we gotta know about the antimatter cannons in terms of performance, at least for me. And I'm happy with this episode. I'll probably have rambled about this for 50 minutes or so, trial and error. I'll edit out a good piece of it. And yeah, I'll hope you've kept with me once we change to Microsoft Excel. And I'll hope you'll still keep with me once we get the final equation solved. We can move on. Till then.